welcome to another Meema Makes tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do this decorative join that is made up of single crochets, that's in US terms, or double crochets in UK terms. You can use this decorative join on any types of granny squares, but I used it on these mini popcorn flower squares that I will link the tutorial for up here now and down in the description. So let's get started. Okay, so for this join we're first going to work it across in one direction, so horizontally across our blanket, cushion, whatever you're making, and then vertically. So we're going to do all the joins this way and all the joins this way. You might find it helpful to temporarily join your squares together with locking stitch markers so they're not moving around too much and it's all a bit more stable. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a slip knot. So this is one of the occasions where I make an actual knot. If you've seen a lot of my other tutorials, I prefer to do a twist when I make a slip knot, but not for this. So what I'm going to do is I've got my tail of my yarn here, I've wrapped it over my first finger like that, then I pull up a loop onto my finger like that, then I pull that loop over and I've created a slip knot. But you can use whatever method you prefer to make a slip knot like this. So it's now on my crochet hook. So I did say that you can use any granny squares for this, but the thing to note is that your corners need to be made up of an even number of chains or stitches. So if you had chain 3 or chain 1 in your corner, you might find this join quite difficult. And I have not tried it before, but that's what I would recommend. So I'd recommend your squares have 2 chains in the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my squares wrong sides together like this. And then I've got those 2 chains in my corner, and in the second chain I'm going to put my hook through the back loop only, and then I'm going to do the same on this square. So I'm going to turn it over a bit and you can see there's my first chain, there's my second chain. So I'm going to put my hook through the second chain, well, that lost focus then, like that. Now I'm going to make a single crochet. So that's a single crochet if you use US terms, or a double crochet if you use UK terms. This tutorial is in US terms, but you can follow it because the only stitch we're going to be doing is a US single crochet or a UK double crochet. So just as long as you keep that in mind. So I'm going to make a single crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and pull a loop through both of those stitches we've put our hook through. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And then we're going to do this in the back loops of every stitch along. So into the next stitch, I'm going to put my hook under the back loop, and then I'm going to put my hook under that back loop there of the next stitch along. You can see that's the stitch we just worked into, so we're going into the next stitch along, and you're going to make a single crochet. I'm going to repeat this again. So I'm moving over to the next stitch. I'm not going back into that stitch that we just done. We're going into the next stitch. We're going into the back loop only of that square, and then the back loop only of that square. So the back loop is the back loop of the square, not the back loop that's facing us. So it's actually the back loop here, and then you can see where I'm going through on the other side. It could be confusing. This loop here you could see as the back loop, but it's actually this loop that we're going through. So we're going through sort of the second loop of the front square and the first loop of the back square, if that's a bit easier for you to remember. And then we're going to make another single crochet, and then into the next stitch we're going into the back loops only again, and we're making a single crochet, and into the back loops again, and then single crochet. And I've been asked to remind people that on YouTube you can speed up and slow this down if you need it at a different speed than what I am going. So I'm doing a single crochet into those back loops. Well, you can't really see what I was doing there. Let's try that again. Put our hook into the back loop, hook into the back loop. I'm just working my way along until I get to the next corner. So here we are. We're almost at that corner, a couple more stitches. So this stitch is into the last actual stitch from the next round. My next stitch is actually the chain. So what we're going to do here is we're only going to work a single crochet into that first chain. We're not going into the second chain, just the first. So we do a single crochet into the back loops of those chains. This does not want to go through. Serves me right for using a little hook and yarn for this tutorial rather than chunky yarn. So if I pull that open now, we can get a bit of a sneak peek of what this join looks like. You can see it's decorative. It is not an invisible join, it's decorative, but I find it really nice if you're joining squares with 3D elements to have a 3D join as well. Just think it looks quite pretty. So that's those two squares joined. So we're now going to pick up our next two squares and place them wrong sides together, and we're going to do exactly what we did here. We're not breaking this yarn, we're going to jump straight across. So we're going to put our hook into the back loop of the second chain of that corner, and then the back loop of the second chain of that corner there, and then I'm going to make a single crochet. You can see this all flopping around. That's what I was saying about using stitch markers to stabilize it a little bit. Probably should have done that for this tutorial, but never mind. So now I'm going to move on to the next stitch. So I'm going into the back loop of the next stitch, and then same on the back, I'm going into the back loop of the next stitch, and I'm making a single crochet. We're going to repeat this all the way along until we get to the next corner. And then if you're joining more squares, you would then jump onto the next square and the next square, joining the first chain of that corner and the second chain of that corner, continuing along until you've got your squares all joined in one strip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work to this corner, and then I'm going to come back, skip to it, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we fasten off this corner once you... Okay, so I've done my last stitch of this square, so I've only gone through the first chain of that corner, through the back loops. Then to fasten off, I chain one, and then I snip my yarn and leave a long enough tail that you can weave your end in, because you can actually weave your end in underneath this join here because it's quite a bulky join. So I've pulled that end through that chain, and then I'm going to give it a pull to tighten, and it's fastened off. So let's open this up and see what it looks like. So that is our join in one direction, and then we're going to join again back in this direction now. So I'm going to fold my squares over like this. We're going to do it exactly the same again. So we're going to start in this corner, and you're going to single crochet through the back loop all the way along, and then your last single crochet of here will be the chain of this corner here. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll meet you just so I show you how we navigate this corner here. Then you'll have all the skills you need to do this join on a larger scale, such as a blanket. So here I am at this corner, so I'm going to do my last stitch of these two squares through the back loops of that first chain of the corner. So there's one back loop, and there's my other back loop if my hook wants to go in there. And I'm going to do a single crochet, and then to navigate this corner, all we're going to do is we're literally going to skip straight over the top of it to here. So my next stitch is going to be through that back loop there and that back loop there, and I'm going to do a single crochet, and that just bridges that gap. You have got a bit of an overlap there, but I think that looks fine. And then you would just finish off just like we did on the other direction of the join. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give it a like and subscribe so you can see more of my crochet tutorials. I've linked one on the screen now that you'll probably enjoy.